Welcome to Blaise Cooks. I'm Blaise, your host, and today I'm making ragu. You might have seen the moussaka video where I was talking about how I was making ragu as well, so that's what's going on here. I'm squeezing steps of the ragu recipe in between steps of a moussaka recipe because sometimes I'm just a little crazy. Now, I already started this last night. I sauteed 2 cups each of carrot, celery, and onion with a little garlic, and I did that until they were completely soft. Then I added about 3 pounds of pork neck bones. That's a really flavorful cut of pork, and I recommend you use it, and it's also cheap. And I browned that and let that simmer in this pot for 25 minutes. I let it cool overnight, and right now we're going to start the next step. And that's where we actually debone all that meat, get rid of the bones, chop up the meat, put it back in the pot, and then the ragu really starts becoming what it is famous for. So you say, what's ragu famous for? Well, ragu is really fundamentally a meat sauce, and not a meat sauce like you see in a jar where it's basically all tomato with some chunks of meat in it. It is just about solid meat and some reduced vegetables like the celery and carrot. And it cooks for a really, really long time, and it just turns everything into one sort of homogeneous mass full of flavor, but not harsh like a tomato sauce can be. So right now I'm going to take all the meat off these pork bones, and we're going to move on to the next step. Now this was a little trickier than I expected. A lot of bones, well, and the pork neck bones. I'm going to grab a bunch of my parsley. I have it all laid out here on a big towel. I washed it and then I dried it. Well, and I also took all the leaves off the stem. And I want quite a bit of parsley in this dish. And I wanted to get the parsley in here. And when I sauteed the vegetables, I only used 2 tablespoons each of bacon fat, butter, and olive oil. A little mixture there. Now it might sound like a lot, but this is a big batch. Now I have this nice and hot. I'm going to put in 1.5 cups of tomato paste. Remember, no tomato. Now you'll find recipes that have tomato, and that's fine. But essentially what ragu amounts to, you can imagine it being really a winter dish. And of course in the winter people would put up tomatoes, but they would make a lot of paste from the tomato harvest. We're going to stir this around. There's some crust on the bottom, and then we're going to put in some dry red wine. This is I believe it's a Chianti. No, it's a Valpolicella. So I'm going to pour this in. I'm tempted to put the whole bottle in, but I feel kind of bad, you know, putting this all on the food. I almost want to drink half of it right now. Let's see. We can put a little bit more in. We just want to cover it. And then we're going to simmer it. You know what, folks? I think most of the bottle's going to go in. This is a 1/2 cup of crushed juniper berries. And this is going to give it a nice, unique flavor, a more unfamiliar flavor than we're used to. And I'm going to throw in a few sprigs of rosemary, almost to just kind of bring a certain hint of familiarity into this dish, because a lot of people associate those kind of. Let's see, how much wine do I pour for myself here? That looks pretty good. Okay. And that should do it. So you see, I just have it kind of looks like chili actually, you know? It's wet right up to the surface, and as it dries out, I'm gonna add cups or 1/2 cup of water each time to always maintain a certain level of liquidity in here. It's been on the heat for about an hour, and you see these little sort of light-colored bubbles. It's bubbling every minute or so. That's how low the heat is and how slow the simmer is, and that's why it requires 3 or more hours. Believe it or not, it's been 7.5 hours since I started simmering the ragu, and the pasta water's boiling, and I am ready to get this rolling. Now remember, you always want to salt your pasta water. I'm going to put a nice amount of salt in there because I have a lot of water in there. I got almost 2 gallons of water. I'm going to use these gnocchetti, and you can see, there you go. You can see there's little ridges on it right here, and it's also folded a little bit like a shell. And that catches sauce, that catches sauce on that side, and the ridges catch the sauce as well. You're probably wondering what the ragu looks like, and here it is. I consider it done. It's not quite a paste, but close to it. I brought my ragu over, and it's about 8 ounces of pasta. So I'm just going to put 2 heaping scoops of this on for starters. Oh, lost a piece there. For starters, put a It's about 8 ounces, so I'll give myself about 3 ounces, let's say. Not quite a quarter of a pound. It's a rich sauce, so we don't need to do that. And then, hopefully I can do this neatly. I'm just going to put a dollop on top. Try to stand it up a little bit. And I'm going to try to concentrate the cheese right on the center. And let it grow on that. And then maybe knock it around the edges a little bit. Now, as you can see, you have a very nice plate of ragu. It doesn't taste quite as much like a gin and tonic as I thought it would. And everything you saw about it is essentially by the book, the juniper berries being the one sort of kind of oddball thing in there that, though can add an interesting element, obviously I need to use a much more judicious hand next time. But until then, see you next time.